Welcome into the Gashouse gang. Kevin Wheeler, Bernie Miklasz with you. Obviously, it's a regular Thursday edition of the Gashouse gang. And what's not regular, Bern, is that our buddy Dave Glover took you and I out to Capitol Grill last night. So we got to hang actually last night for a couple of hours to pregame for the Gashouse gang today. So I just wanted to throw out a little shout out to Dave saying thanks. And we're going to get Dave on the Gashouse gang, I think, at some point. Because he was throwing out all these really cool questions to get stories out of you. He does that with me behind the scenes here. I think it might be a fun edition of the gang one of these days.
I like the idea of having, Dave Glover on from time to time, but there's a lot of other people we could put on that list.
For sure, yeah.
And so we ought to, I know on my YouTube channel, I keep saying I'm going to get guests. I haven't done it yet. I don't know what I'm afraid of. It's pretty easy to do because of, the service we use now,
right,
right. So yeah, but Dave Glover's it's been just great to get to know him. I mean, I knew of him, but just to get to know the person, and he's very sharing and he's very open and he's very honest. I really like him personally. I mean, I really, really like him personally. And I think a lot of other people do as well, because that's why he's so popular in our town.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's one of the, he's, first of all, he's just such a great guy. You think of a person that is in that position, people come up with ideas of what they're like, but Dave is the most giving person. I'm sure you've seen it and heard us talk about it, but he does the No One Dies Alone program.
Absolutely.
And that's where people who are on hospice, when it's getting close to the end, people go sit with them. And Dave is one of those people. And he found out about it because he met one of them that was sitting with his mom in the overnights. And now that got picked up, and Mike Bush did a really cool story on it this weekend. And now, Bernie, that story went national and it hit MSN. And it sounds like there's a hospital system in Denver that's now trying to copy it. So just to give everybody an idea of the kinds of things that Dave Glover spends his time on when he's not clowning around with us on the radio.
That's great. That's beautiful news to hear about how this is branching out, going national. Because what a compassionate, caring thing to do for people in that situation.
So that's our preamble. We had a good night last night. You and I had some laughs with Dave, and it was a really good time. And we talked a lot of baseball last night. Now, we didn't get quite as nerdy as we will today because there's a lot of details that Cardinals fans are still trying to sort out with us, and it's still quiet. So we don't have any more Arenado rehashes to get into yet. A few other regular things I want to get to. And I did want to start with Jordan Walker for two reasons. One, because you have a great piece up on the Bernie Show on YouTube about Jordan Walker. And because Tom and Matt talked about him yesterday too, I think it'd be a good transition because he is so critical, Bernie, so critical to where this team is headed in the future.
There's no doubt about it. And the thing that I tried to relay to people on the video, and I think the response was really, really good. And you know me, man, Mr. Research. I don't think that and I put myself in that category, by the way, when Jordan Walker was a rookie. I thought, that was a good rookie season, but I underestimated it. And I think most people did underestimate from a historical perspective just how good that season is. And can I go through a couple of these things?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you mind?
No.
So in Cardinals franchise history, the only 21-year-old rookies to be about 16% above the league average offensively with a minimum of 400 plate appearances were Albert Pujols, Stan Musial, Rogers Hornsby, and Joe Medwick. Then comes Walker. Again, the stipulation is you have to be a 21-year-old rookie, but that's the point. He was only 21 and he was playing Major League Baseball for the first time. So only a short list of really great Cardinals players ever did what he did, or did better than that. And I could go on. And then here's one, if I could, and I'll wrap it up after this. I looked at 21-year-old hitters that had at least 400 plate appearances in their rookie seasons. I limited it to the expansion era, which began in 1961. So if we take Walker's adjusted runs created, 16% above average, that was exactly what Cal Ripken Jr. did as a 21-year-old rookie in Baltimore. And that 16% above average that Jordan Walker had in 2023, 21-year rookie. Better performance, 21-year-old rookie seasons, better performance in Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, Johnny Bench, Jose Canseco, Gary Carter, Roberto Alomar, Joe Torre. And so I'll leave it at that because that's plenty. That's plenty to chew on. That was a very, very, very special rookie season for a 21-year-old kid. Now, people are going to complain about the defense. Okay, we know about the defense. We're talking about offensively. The defense needs work, but the Cardinals also did him a disservice by not giving him the preparation.
That's right.
So my question to the fans is that, okay, there's no doubt about it. I mean, last year was a brutal, brutal season for Jordan Walker offensively. He went off the cliff. But my question is, and I think it's a really fair question, should we define him by what we saw in 2023, or is 2024 what we should expect? Should we expect the outstanding age-related performance in 2023, or because it was so bad last year, do we say, well, that rookie season just doesn't look all that great anymore because of the way he followed up on it? I tend to say, listen, when you see a guy perform at that level, what never played before above AA, that tells us he can be pretty damn good, if not very special. So I'm gonna be on the side of watch out, because I think he's gonna learn some things as he goes along. I think he'll avoid the kind of season we saw him have last year. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, I'm putting the failures in quotes and on the team, because they've never let him just play through it and figure it out. Each year when he struggled early, he gets sent out. And look, I get it, because they were scuffling badly at the beginning of 23 especially, and it wasn't great early last year either. I understand that you're desperate to win games, so we just don't want to let a guy learn on the fly. But that kind of held him back. If you look at last year, Bernie, his struggles are only 18 games. 18 games, because if you look at when he came back up later, his September numbers, he had a 780 OPS. He had 5 home runs in the month of September. If you hit 5 home runs a month, you're a 30 home run guy.
Yeah. No, they panicked.
Right. And they've done it 2 years in a row. And if you look at his total numbers, he is, again, at the age that you pointed out, which is important, super young, he is a league average hitter, even with the starts to the season that have been struggles. So if the team just leaves him alone and plays him, I'm not saying leave him alone as in let him do his thing. You always got to coach people up. You're always trying to help people improve. That's not what I'm talking about. But you've got to leave him in the lineup. You have to give him 500 plate appearances, because, what we know about him so far as a major leaguer is that he's gotten off to the slow start twice. Mm-hmm. But later on, he's always come back and hit. So maybe you just got to ride it out. And when you look at his characteristics, Bernie, and I know you love this stuff as much as I do, he's a guy that ranks in the top 10% in how hard he hits the ball. His average, we don't have bat speed numbers from before last year, but his bat speed average swing was 77.3 miles an hour last year. Do you know how many major league players had an average higher than that last year? 3.
Not many.
3. Giancarlo Stanton, O'Neal Cruz, Kyle Schwarber. He had the same bat speed as Aaron Judge. And that's a tool that works, but you've got to let it play, man. And this is why, by the way, I'm so in support of this reset, of not focusing on trying to squeeze everything this year, but on learning. This guy needs to play for 6 months, and he may be great. He may be average. He may be below average, but we're not going to know until you let him have 600 plate appearances. But I'll tell you, when you hit the ball that hard, and when you hit the ball that hard as often as he does, his average exit velocity is top 10% in baseball. So he not only hits it hard, he hits it hard a lot. Now, granted, small.
Well, the only problem he doesn't hit enough line drive to fly balls.
Yes.
So he's in his career, because he does hit the ball so hard, he's got a 308 batting average on ground balls. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've had discussions with people say, well, why don't they just leave him alone? I mean, he hits ground balls, but he hits 300.
No.
Okay, when he hits a line drive or fly ball, his batting average in the majors is 383. His slugging percentage is about 700. That's why. You know what a 308 batting average is on ground balls? You know what that is? Empty calories.
Yeah.
It's just nothing, because you're not driving in runs, you're not hitting extra base hits, you don't have the slug, you're not doing damage. Kevin, you know, and I know, you go to any major league pitcher that see this big, strong guy who hits the ball like rockets, right? And you go to them and say, listen, would you prefer that he keeps swinging and hitting hard ground balls with no damage, but he's going to hit 300 against you? Would you prefer that? Or would you prefer that he figures it out and gets the ball in the air more, and he will hit 380 with about a 700 slug on line drives and fly balls? Which guy would you rather pitch to? What do you think the answer would be?
And I think that's there's two parts to it, right? We've already know that they've worked on the swing and all of that. A lot of it is just swing decisions. He's got to lay off the pitches at the bottom of the zone. He's got to lay off the breaking ball low and away. And again, I'm coming back. He shares in his struggles. Okay, I'm not taking him off the hook.
Right.
But sometimes the only way to figure it out at the major league level is to do it at the major league level and see more of those pitches. And eventually you learn to lay off, because the guys in AAA just aren't as good. There's a reason they're in AAA. It's not physical. They all throw hard and all that, but they don't have the command that major league pitchers do. And if you show major league pitchers that you're going to swing at sliders low and away, guess what? You're going to get fed all day.
Last year, that's what happened.
So yeah, I think it's not a hard fix.
And one thing you said like 2 years in a row, he got off to a slow start and they sent him out. You know, as a rookie, he tapered off a little bit after that. How many games was the hitting? It was
like
streak?
10 games. Yeah. 11 games. Yeah.
He tapered off a little bit because a lot of those hard ground balls found gloves.
Yeah. Found defenders.
But at the time that he was sent down to Memphis as a rookie after the April 23rd game, he was hitting 274 and he had a slugging percentage just under 400.
Yeah.
The numbers were going down, but he's a 20-year-old guy that had never played above AA.
Yeah.
So his last 10 games or so weren't all that hot. And it's like, oh, we got to get him out of here. It's like, oh my goodness. And then we've talked about the defensive failings. It's unbelievable to me, because they had 2021.
Yeah.
They got Arenado before 2021, right?
Yeah, they did.
That's their third baseman. Walker won't be their third baseman. So the day you complete the trade for Arenado, you get on the phone with your minor league people and you say, look, we got to move Walker to right field. Maybe give him some time in left field. But from day one in 2021, he's going to be an outfielder. So let's do that. No, they waited until about 5 weeks left in his 2022 season to put him in the outfield.
Yeah.
And then they threw him into the major leagues as an outfielder who had scant experience playing the outfield. So I have a lot of empathy for him when it comes to that. I really agree. They completely did him a disservice. So that's another reason, because I know maybe there's some fans, I don't know how many. I mean, I hear from people complain. They're not digging this whole reset thing. I get it. Everybody like or dislike what you want. But Walker's an example of why you have to be better in the minor leagues, the way you develop these prospects.
That's a great point.
I mean, and then the other thing is that's why it's so exciting to have a new voice as the hitting coach in the major leagues, because I'm not blaming the hitting coach last year per se, but to your point, my friend, when they gave up on Walker so quickly last year, what was it, 18 games you said before they sent him down?
Well, I mean, it was I think it was 24. No, sorry. No, it was 18 starts, I think 20 games.
Okay.
20 games, yeah.
That was the Cardinals admitting the major league operation, from the front office to the manager to the hitting coach. That was an admission. They didn't realize this. They were admitting they don't know what to do with him. Get him to Memphis. Maybe they can figure out something. I mean, so Walker is a great example. There are many others, but he is a great example of what Bill DeWitt wanted to do which is basically rebuild that whole system in the minors and spend a lot of money doing it and bring in a lot of new people who are much more advanced.
Yeah.
It was not a luxury. It was a necessity. It was mandatory that he do this. Unless you want to see Jordan Walker, not learn how to play right field, unless I mean, it's just, there have been so developmental flaws. They have good talent, but you see guys come up and they get into the Gorman too. They get into this thing and they don't know how to get out of it. And no one up here knows how to get them out of it. I mean, it's just not a good look. And I don't want to put too much on Brant Brown, like he's a miracle worker, but I think I think the Cardinals have a much more capable, all-encompassing hitting coach who talks in a language. And this is what some of the old timers out there don't understand. The young guys like all this fancy stuff. They like the technology.
They grew up with it.
They like the gizmos.
Yep.
They like to study, charts. They like to see all the data about their own performance. Just because, like, people of my age, 60 years or older, or even 50 years old, because you don't like it, the young dudes, because this is all they grew up with in the minors, everywhere apparently, except for the St. Louis minor league system. They crave that stuff. They want that stuff. So I think that can help Walker as well.
It's the Gashouse Gang. Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Bernie, I want to talk a little bit about Lars Nootbaar in a lot of the same vein here in a second. Yeah. But first up, let's hear about Seliga.
Absolutely, man. My friends, Dan Seliga, fourth generation owner, operator of the family business, continuously owned by the Seliga since 1927. I say it all the time. I love that, because I love the fact that one family's been taking care of all these generations of St. Louis families going back to the late 1920s. And my question always is, don't you have to be great at what you do to last that long and still be going strong in 2025? I think you got to be pretty great. You got to be pretty special at what you do to build that credibility. But, they have that. They're an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. They do all kinds of services, as you can imagine, residential work, commercial work. And even though they are an American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, they service everything, all makes and models. So don't worry about that. But we just like to talk about how great the American Standard heating and cooling is. We're members of the Priority Club. I would encourage everyone to join. It's a maintenance program. It'll save you money, give you peace of mind, extend the life of your equipment, things like that. Financing options are available, subject to credit approval. But if you want honest service, highly professional, intelligent service, classy in your home, they can handle anything and handle it with honesty. At Seliga Heating and Cooling, go to SeligaHeatingandCooling.com, SeligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thanks, Ken.
All right, let's talk about Lars Nootbaar for a second, because we know he's the great mystery, right? The mystery is just, can he stay on the field? I don't think there's any mystery about, like, whether or not he's capable of being a good major league player. If you look at his career, he's been a guy, and again, it's hard to oversimplify, but essentially he's been 15% above major league average his entire major league career combined, which is a very good player. I mean, that's a very solid player. And that's with all of the stops and starts with injured list stints and things along those lines. And I was looking at some projections, Bernie, and they're all a little different. So none of them are, I try to look at like 5 or 6 of them so that I could kind of create a middle ground, like what people expect. And the expectation is, the estimations vary based on games played, because he's never in the lineup. So they don't forecast him getting 600 plate appearances because he's just never healthy enough to. But they put him at about 20% above league average when it comes to the statistical performance. That would put him in the area of Manny Machado last year, Pete Alonso, Matt Chapman. That puts him in some pretty damn good company. What if we get the miracle and we can get him 550 at bats? How good could he be?
Be really good, because numbers tell us so. The only gap is the fact that he doesn't play as often as he should. He gets interrupted, and when he comes back from injury, it takes him a little while to get his rhythm back. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about what he's already done. I mean, the projections are in line with that. Among big league outfielders that have had, and I focused on outfielders because that's his position, because not all positions are the same in terms of what you expect. Right. So among big league outfielders with 1,000 plate appearances since the start of 2022, he's about at 19% above the league average offensively. It's the same as Corbin Carroll. It's the same as Jared Duran. It's the same as it's the same as Randy Arozarena. And this is the best part. That figure of him being about 19% above league average offensively over the past 3 years among outfielders, better than George Springer, Michael Harris II, Adolis Garcia, Taylor Ward, Lewis Robert Jr., Brian Reynolds, Stephen Kwan, Jerickson Profar, Chas McCormick, and on and on and on. See, I understand total frustration about him not being able to play enough. It's frustrating to him. It's frustrating to the Cardinals. It's frustrating to the media. It's frustrating to fans.
Yeah.
But we got to learn how to separate the two. Like, in other words, you can be upset, so to speak, that he doesn't go to the post enough to run the race. It's not because he's a baby or he's soft. He just gets these weird injuries. So everyone has every right to be concerned or upset by that.
Skeptical, yeah.
But separate that from the actual performance. The performance is good. And, I'll get accused of, making a straw man argument, and I'm not. Because every time I have something nice to say about Nootbaar's performance, I get a flood of feedback. Oh, he's an average guy. He's on a good team. He's a fourth outfielder. Now,
oh no.
Let me just say that I've even had people call him below average. So there I go again, building the straw man, which I'm not, because I can only go by what the feedback I get, and I get a lot of feedback. But, he's in a group of about 10 outfielders in the majors, maybe a dozen at most since the start of 2022, that have at least a 350 on base percentage and at least a 425 slugging percentage. I was surprised to discover there were relatively few guys who have that profile. He's one of them. So that's the part we should recognize. We should all agree it's imperative for him to be able to play 135, 140 or more games. That's the one thing that's missing, because the more he plays, the better he is.
Yeah, that's a great point. In fact, to tie into this, because I think you have to have alternative plans for when he does get hurt, or if he does get hurt, right? You got to have the roster depth and people ready to step in. And I don't know that this is necessary, but I think Joseph makes a pretty good point. There's no reason not to let Sajaci get a little fly ball action in the spring.
Yeah.
And now you can do it another way, right? You can always have Donovan play left field, and then you can have Sajaci playing second base. So there are plenty of ways to play it, but you do have to kind of have a plan to cover it, moving forward.
Let me ask you this. All right, because, and I'm going to do a video about this on my channel here this afternoon, and actually it comes from something John Mozeliak said at the winter warm-up, which is saying, no, we don't, we really don't want to bother. We don't really want to mess with our pitching staff, and Bill DeWitt has said, well, you don't really have to cut cost if Arenado stays. You can, you don't have to do that. But Mo said, but if we were to make a trade to maybe save some money on payroll, he was saying I'd be inclined to move a position player now, but I don't know who. Like, I do know who. Because they have a bunch of guys that are not going to be even arbitration eligible for
right.
And a lot of guys that are not going to be anywhere near free agency. So you're not going to, let me just do this really quick. Share it with our Gashouse gang audience. Wynn doesn't become a free agent. We're talking position players. Wynn doesn't become a free agent until 2030. Donovan 2028. Nootbaar 2028. Gorman 2029. Walker 2030. Herrera 2030. Ciani 2030. Burleson 2029. So, in other words, they're not making big money. And I do know that Nootbaar's going to be up over maybe he'll be $3 million. Yeah. Nootbaar's probably going to get close to $3 million. So you suggested Burleson could be a trade candidate, and I totally agree. But maybe for a different reason,
right? Not for salary dump either, by the way, right? Just to get something.
I'm looking ahead a little bit, and I don't know what kind of trade value Burleson would have, right?
Yeah, probably moderate.
But I'm looking, if you're sort of projecting out their farm system over the next couple of years or whatever, they do have some guys that are getting closer. I mean, Chase Davis is going to be a AAA. He's a left-handed bat. He's 23 years old. Nathan Church, who's kind of made a quiet rise up their system, left-handed hitting outfielder, can play all three positions. That kid they drafted in the second round a few years ago, Joshua Baez, his numbers were starting to come last year. Travis Honeyman is a sleeper, a recent
heard a
draft
lot last
pick.
year, but talented.
Excellent numbers, and he's a right-handed batter. They've got the kid out of Korea that started to make some progress, only 21 years old. To your point, that would make Burleson expendable because they can see they've got a whole new flock of outfielders that are on the way. Now, I'm not saying all of them are going to get here and be good. We don't know that.
No idea, yeah.
But a lot of these guys, they invested early round draft picks in. So, yeah, so it's an interesting situation because I'm trying to figure out, okay, who the heck would you trade? Would you try to save some money? Nootbaar, Donovan? I'd find that hard to believe.
Yeah,
Burleson won't make all that much. I don't know what the answer is. What do you think? You got any theories?
I'm with you. The only guys, unless you're going to swing around and try to trade Contreras, which seems like, given the way that conversation has gone, seems damn near impossible. And you need that bat. That's your 3-hole hitter. Like that's your best hitter. You're going to need that guy. Then the only guys you could move that would save any money would be Donovan and Nootbaar, but it would be so little. Then why bother? Like, why bother saving $2 million or $2.5 million or whatever? I mean, like,
and this is a runway season, so you want to. Don't you want to see if you can get 140 games out of Nootbaar this year?
Yes.
That would change your whole perception of him. You trade him and you want to see him play 145 games for somebody else?
Yeah.
And then have Ken Rosenthal and Tom Verducci and everybody else write about, like, well, can you believe it? The Cardinals gave up another outfielder who's thriving elsewhere. I wouldn't want to take that risk. I think Donovan's got value because of his
he has great value, yes.
But isn't that why you'd want to keep him though?
Yes, for now.
Yeah,
I mean, you might decide later, that all that. In fact, let's do this. It's Bernie Miklasz and Kevin Wheeler with you here on the Gashouse Gang. Let's keep this conversation going, Bern, including the prospect stuff, because Baseball America just put JJ Wetherholt and Quinn Mathews and Tink Hence in the top 100. In fact, they're all in the top 68. Well, so you got Wetherholt at 25, you've got Quinn Mathews at number 41, and then you've got Hence, I think, at 68. So you've got those three guys. You mentioned a bunch of others, and like thinking about what you just said about the guys coming. Well, Wetherholt's going to be here soon too. Right. Shortstop's taken. If Gorman takes hold at third base is kind of taken. He could play second. But that could be Donovan too. He might be a guy that ends up in left field, or maybe Donovan ends up in left field with Wetherholt at second or some. The point is, you got to make room and somehow, but this year is the year you find out who you're making room with.
Right. And by the way, I think Baseball Prospectus has gotten overlooked in all of this. I'm an avid Baseball Perspective fan. I think they're really, really smart. And I'm a subscriber to both digital publications. Baseball America, as you noted, had 3 Cardinals in the top 100. Baseball Prospectus had 4 Cardinals in the top 100. And they also had them rated more highly. Like they have Wetherholt at number 13. They have Mathews at number 27. They have Hence at number 38. Those guys rated much more highly by Baseball Prospectus and Baseball America. Yeah. And Baseball Prospectus, they have Jimmy Crooks on the list.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals are loaded with young catching.
Yeah.
Which is the thing about possible trades in the future. At some point, you would think they're going to have to trade Herrera or Pages. I'm serious. I'm not saying, get rid of one of them.
It's not now, but it the time's coming.
I was looking at since we're starting about this, and let me make sure I can find this. So Baseball Prospectus, they're Cardinals' top 10 prospects, right? They have 3 catchers. They have Crooks, they have Leonardo Bernal, and they have this really young guy with massive power. He's raw. He's real young. Raniel Rodriguez. Yeah. They've got 3 of their top 10 prospects are catchers. something's got to give, or I should say someone's going to have to go, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to have tradable commodities.
And what you want is to see. So for example, just as like looking at the catchers, if you see Herrera and Pages this year, and like Herrera is a burst out star, well, then maybe down the road, what you're doing is trading Crooks for a need, right? Or, so it can go either way. It can be, boy, you need to keep these guys, or, well, this guy's pretty good, but this guy's also good. So let's keep the younger option and we'll trade the major league option to improve whatever our weakness happens to a given point. And the thing is, obviously you don't want to do any of that like this offseason because you don't know enough to know value, which is why you don't want to do it on Nootbaar right now. Because if Nootbaar goes out and you're in July and he's got 20 home runs and he's been healthy, and now a team goes, hey, would you like top 100 prospect plus 2 of our other top guys for this guy? You can now look at it and say, man, we're getting something big if that's the route you want to go. Right. You may just decide at that point, no, we're going to keep the guy. He's not a free agent for a few years. But the point is, you want guys to play into high value and not trade them when they're either unknown or they're coming off of injuries like Newt.
Right. I agree. You got to be careful. And they, at least with Burleson, they have an idea what he is. He's really good against right-handed pitching. He's actually everything else is a mixed bag. I was looking at the StatCast stuff today. He is terrible.
It's all over the place.
His base running value is terrible. His defensive value is terrible. His batting run value is only a little bit above average. The good news is he makes great contact. He doesn't strike out or swing and miss much. The bad news is he chases a lot of pitches. So instead of hitting strikes and doing something with that, he swings at a lot of stuff that he can't. He'll put it in play, but he doesn't do much with it. The good news, he doesn't strike out. The bad news is he doesn't walk. So
he's kind of the opposite of Walker, which is funny, right? Because
it's on and on.
Well, not
so.
Opposite,
I mean, if
the
team's really aching for a left-handed DH who can play a little corner outfield, a little first base, but primarily a DH to use against right-handed pitching. I mean, he would be a candidate, but I also don't want to overestimate his trade value because I don't know what it is. And you're not either. You're not either.
Right. And that's only in the scenario if you can't trade Arenado.
Right.
Because if you can't trade him, you're low. You have too many hitters, and you don't have opportunity for Sajasi, who's a guy that I think maybe in a future show we'll talk more about. But that's a guy with 25 home run power who's an infielder. I mean, at some point. And he's not 21. He's not a young guy. He's a guy that at some point you got to find out what he is. And there are no at-bats for him if Arenado is here. Because all of those at-bats are going to be going to Nootbaar and Gorman, and they're going to be going to Burleson. And there just won't be opportunities. Actually, they'll all be going to Arenado because he's going to play every day. So, that's just an alternative if you're trying to clear space to get at-bats for another one of the guys.
Sajasi, speaking, since we were talking about Baseball America, Sajasi made their just missed list of the top 100 prospects. And they had him listed in just missed. They had him listed, I believe, third. If not, it was fourth. So if they did a top 104 prospects, he would have been on it.
Yeah.
And they like him. And their evaluators really like him. Said, he could use a little more work in Memphis. Because he's probably overly aggressive. He swings it too much, and he could polish up his hitting. But if they need him, he's major league ready now. So, but what are they going to do with him if Arenado stays?
Yeah, not put him in Memphis because you got to play. You don't want the guy just sitting around not playing. Right. It's Gashouse Gang, Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler. We have a few more minutes. Bernie, start those few minutes by telling us more about Seliga.
I'm very happy to do it, and there, I'm pointing to it. That little Seliga van there. You never really want to. You never, in Seliga. Yeah, there it is. You never like in the Seliga family would know this. It isn't that people want to have to call somebody for heating and cooling because chances are it means something's got to be fixed and it gives you anxiety. You're worried about how much it's going to cost. That's why Seliga is so great, because if you do need their help, you do have an emergency, you do have a problem, in our experience, man, and again, they've been around since 1927. This American Standard Heating Air Conditioning Dealer, 1927. What I found is like, you don't want to have to call heating and cooling, businesses, especially for emergencies. But if you do, man, you want to call the people that are going to do a great job and an honest job, not trying to hustle or upsell you, trying to save you money if they can, to talk you out of buying something you don't need at that time. So just give them the highest accolades, because we have plenty of experience calling Seliga Heating and Cooling, this American Standard heating and cooling dealer. And they do all residential work, commercial work, all makes and models. I want you to go to SeligaHeatingandCooling.com and read about the Priority Club. You'll benefit from it. It's really, really good. It's a maintenance program. Also, just keep in mind, you can call and get quotes. Financial options are available, subject to credit approval. So what you do is just go to SeligaHeatingandCooling.com, SeligaHeatingandCooling.com, and the phone number's on there, but I'll give you that too, 314-481-7333. Thanks.
All right, so let's close out. We were going to do some football, but we're not going to have time to do that in 3 or 4 minutes. So let's take this in a direction that can be a little shorter, Bernie. And I think we know the answer, but we had Donovan bring up Luken Baker, who has destroyed left-handed pitching in the minor leagues. He has done everything you're going to be able to do at AAA. There is nothing left for Luken Baker to learn or prove at AAA. The only thing we have to figure out is whether or not he has a future with you in the major leagues. And part of the problem is he only plays one position, and he's not particularly good defensively at that position at first base. And Wilson Contreras is your first baseman. So basically you're looking at a DH. This just might be a guy that's the ultimate tweener, right? Who can really hit left-handed pitching, and maybe there's a role for him in that, but how do you comprise your bench to make that work for this particular team? Do you just say, hey, that's what that guy is, and he's danger late in the game against lefties like we saw a couple times last year, and he starts at DH against lefties, but also does that limit Herrera's exposure? Does that limit your ability for defensive switches? Like, how do you view that? Is that even something we should be talking about going into the season?
Well, he seems to be popular, and I get that because the offense has been so starved. But I also think that we got to be careful here because some of the reasons that you just specified very well. And I realize he also has not have any kind of meaningful sample size in the majors.
Right.
But,
40 at bats.
But, you're also talking about when he has played, he's about 150 plate appearances. That's not enough. But his slugging percentage is 341. So in other words, he's going to be like a hit for damage, hit ball far type guys. And the little that we've seen in him, he really hasn't done that. And that makes me wonder whether you use the word tweener, another way to put it is he kind of a quadruple A player, like in between AAA and the majors? I don't know. But frankly, I don't see where there's going to be meaningful playing time for him in the major leagues here. I agree. So,
but he's also, he's not 22, he's 27.
Right.
He's not a kid, so the argument could be, well, yeah, you're having success at AAA because you're 26 years old, 27 years old.
That's right.
And, I would be curious, but I think it's more of a guy that you call up when a need arises, because I just don't think you can store him on the bench because you're just so limited in what you can do moving people around if that guy takes up a spot.
The Cardinals, Mosaic said the other day, they like to get a right-handed bat. If they don't see someone they like, could they stow him on the bench as their, right-handed bat? Press the button whenever you need that late inning pinch hitting performance. I don't know. I guess I'm looking at Baseball Reference projections for him this year. 234 plate appearances, and this is just on the assumption that he would get that. 228 average, 312 on base percentage, 383 slug. For a bench player, is that okay? It's not awful, but
but you would want that slug to be more like 450 for him.
Yeah, that's exactly right, or at least 425 or so.
Yeah.
I don't see it, but
I'm with you. I just wanted to bring it in there because I think, there was a time last year where calling him up made a lot of sense,
right?
Because you're struggling badly with left-handed pitching, and you had guys on the bench They just never played. You had Carpenter and Crawford. You just never used them. They just sat there. So why not call up the guy that might hit lefties? But this year it's a different structure. It's a different setup. And, again, if he's at Memphis and you have a need for damage against lefties, sure, call him up. But otherwise, good luck.
When they brought him up last year, he had a home run in his first game and everyone got excited.
Yeah.
And I'm not ridiculing that. I loved it too.
Yeah.
I loved watching him hit. But, you get past those early games, like his final, again, small sample, but his final, he hit another home run on September the 1st. After that, it's about 25 plate appearances, which isn't a lot. He hit 182, he slugged 273. See, he's one of those guys, I hate to say it because it's not fair to him. You'd love to give him 500 bats. They just don't have it. But he's one of those guys that you would love to have on your bench if you knew that he would be very productive in a bench role. I just don't see much evidence that he would be.
Yep. All right. That's going to be a wrap for today. So you'll be back with Matt Pauley tomorrow, Bernie.
Yes,
I know you guys will have some NFL playoffs, more Cardinals, lots of things that are still going on. The Blues are, getting themselves ready for a push here as we get closer to the trade deadline. So plenty of stuff for all of us to cover. And only by the time we go back next week, Bernie, 2 weeks until pitchers and catchers. So we're getting there. We're looking forward to it. By the way, subscribe to the Gashouse Gang here on our YouTube channel. And that's just youtube.com/@KMOX Sports. Subscribe to the Bernie Show on YouTube. You get all the same kinds of content, but you get a lot more depth on a half hour on one subject, as opposed to us for 40 minutes kicking around 4 or 5 things. So it's just a really cool compliment. I think the two things complement each other very well. So subscribe to both. Otherwise, Bern, we'll talk to you tomorrow on DGS. Everyone else, have yourselves a great Thursday.